Hi, everyone. Happy Florida Climate Week. Let me share my screen here. Awesome. I'm really excited to chat with you all today about how I think in some ways we need to start to be shocked into action. My name is Anna. I'm the executive director of We Are Neutral. We're an environmental nonprofit. It's been around 15 years, helping businesses and individuals understand, track, monitor, calculate, reduce, and offset their comprehensive carbon footprints to achieve carbon neutrality. And yeah, I think that most people think that climate change is going to be affecting people halfway around the world in decades. And I think we need a uncomfortable reminder that it is happening to us here and now, to you and me. I think Al Gore did a really good job of that in 2006 with Inconvenient Truth. And I think we kind of need another wake-up call to really remember that this is happening to us, our neighbors, our kids, our pets right now. So the beginning of this talk is, maybe a little bit of a downer, just facing the facts, but I do really hope that it inspires us to take action. And I do think that a reality check is helpful. So the reality is that our Earth has seen 20,000 years of change in 170 years. This past July was the absolute hottest month that we have on record. Greenhouse gas emissions are at a 4.5 million year high. So this graph here shows around 2,000 years. 4.5 million years would be 2,500 more of these graphs going towards the left. So you can really see in perspective the damage that we've caused in a really short amount of time. The first thing I really want to talk about is how the heat affects our health. We've all heard about the IPCC report stating that we need to stay below 1.5 degrees Celsius to avoid catastrophic damage, 100 or 1.5 degrees Celsius from pre-industrial temperatures. And I think that for a lot of us, a 1.5 degrees Celsius goal is kind of vague. So I wanted to put this in terms of Fahrenheit, which is the scale that I'm more used to. And 1.5 degrees Celsius is 34.7 degrees Fahrenheit. So you can think about 100-degree Fahrenheit day being 135 degrees. And I hope that that puts things more in perspective. Another comparison I like to make is, our body temperature is 98.6 degrees, and we have a fever of just 101, which is just an increase of, 4. We're laid out, our body has a fever and we're fighting to survive. And that's really the current state of our planet. So just really recognizing that our bodies and the planet are very similar in how delicate we are. We're the same percentage of water. And our defense mechanisms are actually pretty similar as well. So I'm not an epidemiologist by any means, but one study estimates that there are 3,200 strains of coronaviruses that exist among bats, just waiting for an opportunity to jump onto human populations. So a lot of people think that the diseases, these viruses have always been there, but they've been buried deep in the wild in remote places out of human contact. Now that the planet's natural defense systems are being depleted and biodiversity is being challenged, we're coming in more contact with these viruses and diseases, hence COVID-19 in 2020. In addition to that, these ancient glaciers that we have, they actually serve as enormous global abiotic reserves. So that harbors hundreds of viable bacteria and fungal species, viral candidates such as the flu and coronavirus, amongst others. They're abundant in our glaciers, and following their melting, they are released into our connected water bodies, which is ultimately participating in the ongoing disease cycle. Another terrifying fact here is that included in that scenario, we have flesh-eating bacteria becoming more and more common across the country due to the rising ocean temperatures. So it used to be really uncommon to find this bacteria in waters 30 years ago, and now the cases are starting to pop up. So again, another here, now, you and me fact that is hard to face, but I hope that that inspires us to really focus on the solutions that we have in front of us to avoid these catastrophic events. I've always kind of pictured in the last 10 years of my career that, you know, Mother Earth would kick us off her back with a big tsunami or a comet or something. But I really think it's this virus and bacteria stuff that we're starting to see that is the real danger. Another component of global warming is sea level rise, as we all know, in addition to the melting glaciers causing an increase in bacteria, viruses, and disease. Sea level rise is another dangerous consequence, especially here in Florida. So over 200 million homes are expected to be underwater in my lifetime. Many of them are projected to be in our home state of Florida. 4.5 million people in the US were displaced by natural disasters in the past year, and hurricanes were caused over half of those because of the warming oceans. 3.5 million Floridians are at current risk of displacement due to sea level rise, and that's probably going to jump another million pretty soon. The population of Florida is 21 million, so that's 1 in about every 6 of us that is going to be displaced due to sea level rise in the near future. Another fact about this is that salt water from the sea level rise is seeping further inland through Florida's porous limestone, bedrock, and contaminating underground freshwater supplies. So the Florida Department of Environmental Protection warned that in March, the existing sources of water will not adequately meet the reasonable beneficial needs for the next 20 years. In 20 years, that's terrifying to me. I have a kid. That means by the time he's in college, this is going to be a real problem. Florida's aquifer and primary source of drinking water has reduced by 60%. Half the world's population will be living in areas facing extreme water scarcity in the next 2 years. And the US Director of National Intelligence said the risk of conflict, like water wars, would grow 40% by 2030 as the water demand is set to outstrip sustainable current supply levels. So again, another here and now terrifying fact that hopefully doesn't make us depressed and inspires us to get moving. Air quality, this is probably the one that concerns me the most. Obviously, all of the warming oceans and the melting glaciers is caused by us, our human activity from the post-industrial revolution. It is AKA pollution from all of us burning fossil fuels 24/7 to fuel our homes, to travel, to run businesses, etc. And this pollution is affecting you and me in a very real way today. There's more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere today than any other time in human history. And when humans are exposed to high concentrations of carbon dioxide, as we all know, that displays in high blood pressure, dizziness, and even death. The reality is that more carbon dioxide equals less oxygen. So that's something that I take very seriously myself, again, as being a mother. A lot of times I think about the fact that we have carbon monoxide detectors in our house, and we all know the fear of inhaling, natural gas fumes, and that's really kind of what we're starting to create in the pocket of our planet. 99% of our global population breathes polluted air. And the World Health Organization says that exposure to this polluted air is equivalent to smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. The increased emphysema that the World Health Organization observed is similar to the lung damage caused by 29 years of a pack a day of smoking. So that's really the reality of what we're inhaling every single minute of every day. I think we all can attest to, myself included, as I am sick this week, more seasonal allergies. So global warming has doubled the pollen count in the air since 2000. A third of Americans are already experiencing asthma, and asthma and particulate air pollution are becoming a problem for more and more people, especially dangerous for our kids and our pets, which is just scary to think about. So half of Americans live in areas with poor air quality that does not meet the National Ambient Air Quality Standards, according to a recent report published by the American Lung Association. So again, this is absolutely not something that's going to be affecting people in another part of the world, in 50 years. This is what's happening to us right now. And we just need to open our eyes and start to move the needle in the right direction. Something that affects us all, money, our wallets being hit. So higher temperatures increase carrying costs of owning a home, like higher utility costs. Higher temperatures mean more people using electricity and AC, especially in Florida, putting a lot of stress on our electrical grid. AC is, at an all-time high here in Florida, and since 2015, the amount of blackouts has doubled in the US, which has cost us billions and billions of dollars to fix. Not only is this a financial burden, but can be deadly for those who depend on electricity for medicine, warmth, food, water, etc. All those really important things. Florida already has deep property insurance problems, again, affecting myself as a Floridian. Rates are skyrocketing for tens of thousands of homeowners. The biggest private companies have already abandoned their state. A dozen more are going belly up as we speak, and have limited coverage after a string of all these hurricanes, including Ian, which was the most expensive storm in our state's history. Research suggests that a warming planet is already increasing the price of food, and will drive up inflation. The study found that climate change is driving up the cost of food prices and productions every hour of every day. Heavy rainfall, flooding, heat waves, and droughts erode agriculture, infrastructure, and workers' ability to stay on the job, all of which lead to supply chain breakdown, which is exactly what we all experienced during COVID. And back to insurance, many homes in the United States are insured at prices that are significantly lower than the actual risk that they face from these climate disasters. So while we think we might have homeowners insurance that will protect us in the event that something happens, they really probably won't cover all of the costs associated with the damage. And also, a company said that the average homeowner who receives a non-renewal notice, which I did by mistake, saying that my roof was not up to date when it is a brand new metal roof, if you even receive a non-renewal letter, you immediately lose a double-digit percentage of your property value on your insurance. So this is something that we just all need to be very aware of, to protect ourselves and our families, as we live in a warming planet. The total damages for the 15 confirmed US weather and climate disasters so far in 2023 equals $32.7 billion. So it's ironic to me that fossil fuel companies and big oil are really protective of their profits, while the consequences of these actions are putting us in a lot of country debt. The last thing to try to inspire you and encourage you to take action. And again, I know I'm preaching to the choir with this crowd here, but hopefully some of these statistics you will share and will inspire others to change. But I'd like to talk about some of the things we love that are in jeopardy. So hop and barley production is being hit really hard by rising temperatures and water scarcity, and brewery owners across the nation are worried about beer shortage. So maybe if all of the other facts that I shared do not concern you and you're a lover of a nice beer, that might help inspire you to take action. Again, wine is one of the most sensitive agricultural products in the world. Soil temperature, pH, and humidity play a huge role in the production of wine. Historically, great areas for vineyards have been failing to produce wine due to the warming climate and declining soil health. And soon experts predict that suitable coffee growing lands will decrease by 50% due to climate change. Coffee rust is a new plant disease specifically found on coffee plants due to increased global temperatures and has been wiping out a significant amount of the coffee plantations worldwide. And lastly, chocolate is predicted to drop. Its supply is predicted to drop and prices increase due to the rising temperatures harming the productivity. So again, just a handful of things there that might get you going. So the good part, I have spent 15 years quantifying the impacts that we have on this planet, good and bad, to help people compensate for them, neutralize their impact, etc. And I'm still a serial optimist. I am seeing the things that work. And I, while everything that I just talked about is kind of scary, I'm really, really hopeful. I have a lot of faith in us and our desire to be healthy and alive. So I wanted to go over a few things that in my experience really, really, really tend to move the needle. And it might not be what you think. So first, I would love for you all to get inspired. If you're scrolling and Netflixing anyway, I really think it's beneficial to throw some environmental inspiration and content into the mix. So following certain people, watching some documentaries, I'm still learning things every minute of every day that help inspire me to continue the work that I do. Here are some of our favorite documentaries that you can watch, and I'll be sharing these slides and the recording of this talk and my written talk so that you all can take notes of these things and some of the facts and figures that I quoted before. And then here are some of my favorite groups that you can follow on social media. So again, while you're scrolling, you get some good environmental nuggets in your news feeds. Vote with your vote. So I've heard a lot of times that my vote doesn't matter. It absolutely does. Every single local election, every single petition, every single is pressure, and people in power are wanting to stay in power, and they need your vote and your support to stay there. This is one of the areas in which I am seeing a lot of tipping happening. I'm seeing people in power following what the voters want, and I think that's making a huge change. Again, let's see, ExxonMobil just revealed they spent about $5 million lobbying federal lawmakers and about $1 million lobbying state level lawmakers. And so polluters are fighting hard to protect their profits over the planet, but we can fight back, and I'm watching it happen in real time, which is really, really exciting. Two groups that I love are Citizen Climate Lobby and Earth Justice. They make it really easy to sign petitions and to know how you can get involved in a way that's really going to make a change. Vote with your dollars. So one of the biggest things that I don't know that people are aware of is that where your money is sitting is most likely being invested in fossil fuels. So where your money is in a checkings account or savings account or retirement plan, I would assume those dollars are being invested in fossil fuels if you haven't made an effort to ensure that they are not. So this is something that occurred to me a handful of years ago, and I had to work really hard to make sure that my retirement or any sort of finances that I had, and including our organizational finances, were handled with care. Another shout out, Climate First Bank is a Florida-based bank that ensures that your dollars are not supporting fossil fuels, and better than that, they actually make sure your dollars are supporting really powerful projects. So they're one of a kind bank that we have right in our backyard, just founded by really good people, and I'm really grateful to not have to worry about the mystery of where our dollars are and what they're being spent on. So 90 corporations are responsible for 2/3 of all pollution created since the dawn of the industrial era. Climate scientist Dr. Katharine Hayhoe recently said that the CEOs of all of these 90 companies could fit in 3 buses, which just puts it in perspective, like how powerful a small proportion of our global society is in climate change. So this is just an outline of those companies. And then big brands, no surprise, have big carbon footprints. So I try to make it a point as much as I possibly can to boycott a lot of these brands, and as much as I can, and support the little guys. So our dollar has power. And again, this is another thing that I am really, really witnessing. I don't just give Gen Z credit, because I know we're all working really hard, but Gen Z has really made a big, powerful statement that they are not going to spend their money with brands that don't align with their morals and values, and the brands are feeling that, and that's why I believe they're changing their tune in a lot of ways, because they want, they want the Gen Z consumer segment. So this is really powerful too. Beware of greenwashing. So greenwashing, again, I'm sure everyone in this audience knows, is when a big brand like the ones I just showed above, food and bev, fast fashion, big oil, hotels, they make environmental claims that make them appear to be working on the problem, but they're choosing to showcase things that sound powerful but are not really moving the needle, all to kind of convince us that they are working on it when they're not really doing much to change their ways. Here are some of my least favorite greenwashing examples. Sprite, new bottle, now made with clear plastic to help the bottle be remade. I don't think the color of the bottle is the issue. Coca-Cola, good job on the hybrid, but maybe quit making so much crap. H&M, recycling clothes isn't really the problem. And then, this diapers is like, they didn't even change anything about the materials. They just put a bunch of leaves on the wrapper. So these are things that I just don't want people to see this and being like, oh, these brands are really taking responsibility, because they are, in a sense. Any and every change is great, but just be aware. And I'm encourage you to be a little cynical and a little curious. And if somebody says they're carbon neutral, ask them to prove it. I think that's our right as consumers. So these are the typical things that you all kind of think of when you think about what we can do to move the needle in the right direction. Fly less. You could drive from Orlando to Atlanta 416 times to have the same environmental impact as just one flight going the same distance. Drive less. Every mile you drive in your car produces a 2-foot cube of carbon emissions. So it's a pretty solid visual to think about that driving down our roads. Use less energy. Using fossil fuels from our local power grids has the same environmental impact as powering your home with solar for 25 years. Use less water. Drinking just one disposable water bottle has the same environmental impact as refilling a reusable bottle with tap water for an entire year. Eat less or no meat. Every individual cheeseburger has the same environmental impact as eating almost 60 salads. So again, just got some of these sense of scale points to help bring awareness to the reality. Composting, just 1 year's worth of food waste will divert 8 years worth of carbon emissions from landfilled food being added to the atmosphere. And then donate. So while you're boycotting those big brands, you can do, double the good by supporting a lot of these groups that are on the ground doing the good work, fighting the good fight. These again are just some of my favorites that I have witnessed do really, really incredible things. And lastly, my favorite, know, understand, reduce, track, monitor, report, and offset your carbon footprint. I don't think that we can improve what we can't measure. And so I take a lot of pride in being able to calculate a corporation or a small business or a individual's carbon footprint to get a baseline of what your environmental impact is. In a negative sense, and then we can do an equal and opposite amount of good while reducing your impact to help you negate the negative environmental impact that you have. And just wanted to say this is like an example of how comprehensive we are in our carbon footprinting, which I hope if you use any group to calculate your carbon footprint, you ensure that it's very comprehensive. And so far, we have spared our atmosphere about 74,000 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions. We've planted about 61,000 trees. We've saved low-income families over $3 million by doing energy upgrades locally here in Florida. And yeah, so please reach out. I love to talk about this stuff. I would love to share all the facts and figures and slides with you all. And don't be a stranger. I'd love to talk. Happy Florida Climate Week. Thanks for having me.